Joining us on the line right now, though, is Bills Hall of Famer Jim Kelly, as we wanted to get Jim on to, talk about Josh's season, where he sees some improvement, and the very real prospect that some of Jim's records at the top of the list there in Bills history could be falling victim to some of Josh's exploits this season, one of which did fall this past Sunday night. Jim, how you doing? How's hunting season treating you, first of all, Jim?
I can't complain. Not as many as I would like. I haven't been out as much. I mean, I have done a few. I got one nice buck, but other than that, just really haven't been out like I have in the past. Of course, with COVID, we didn't have our big deer camp that we usually have with, Chef Joe Yergi from Mulberry's coming in. He cooks for like 75 guys, but as you well know, that had to be way limited to the amount of people. But, getting in the outdoors, I love it. So, it is what it is, and just have to wait for next year.
Yeah, we got to ask you, Jim. We've been talking about Josh and what he's been doing this year. I know Jill put out that tweet and quoted you as saying Josh is going to get all your records. What do you think about Josh's growth? Obviously, he's grown leaps and bounds. Do you think he's just begun? We got a Twitter poll out today. Do you think Josh has kind of reached his full potential, or has he just reached the tip of the iceberg, or do we even really need him to develop anymore?
Oh, well, no, as you well know, if you are accepting that you are at the top, and then, you're going to start going down. So with Josh, I think he's playing great football. Yeah, there's always room for improvement in everybody's game, whether it was Josh or Morse at center, whether it's Jerry Hughes on defense, whatever the case may be. As you well know, Steve, you got to continue to learn. He's in his third year. I think he's going awesome. And the bottom line, if he does not break my records, then something's wrong, especially in today's game, how much they pass and not a lot of touch the receivers, not a lot of put a hand on a quarterback. So all those things, if you think about all of them, and you know what, I'd be surprised if Josh doesn't break all my records. Then after he continues to grow, he'll start breaking his own records. So, yeah, and also that means we're winning and we're doing well.
And Jim, I chuckle to myself at this one because I think back and, if how many times you got hit below the knees and how many times you got hit in the head, that'd be a free set of downs for you if you were playing now. How many extra series would you have had over the course of your career with the rules that they have now, right?
You wouldn't believe how many times I'm asked that how many more years you think you would have played if they had the rules for the quarterbacks now. And I said, well, I definitely would not have played at the age of what Tom Brady's doing now, but I definitely would have played a few more years. But you know what? Back then, they didn't realize how important it was to take care of the people on offense. And I know defensive players, and I get it. There's some calls that they have on, players that, hit a quarterback, and it's like, are you kidding me? That was a horrible call. And I've seen some this past weekend that there's some really bad calls. But you know what? They're protecting the quarterback, and I don't think you'll get any complaints for a lot of fans because, number one, who wants to watch the backup or the third-string quarterback? And there are not many people. They want to see their stars like a Josh Allen. They want to continue to see him on the field and work his magic. So, it is what it is, and I love it, and I'm sure a lot of people, especially defensive players, will complain about that. But, yeah, it helps your offense, there's no doubt.
One of the things that this season reminds me of, Jim, is 1988. It was the season, was your third season in the league, and that was the year it kind of came together where the team went 12-4. They hadn't been to the playoffs yet, and we kind of busted out and had a big season at 12-4, went to the championship game. And to me, this season feels a little bit like that. Although they've been in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, this team all of a sudden looks like it's ready to take an enormous step forward. What do you see about how deep this team could go? Because all of a sudden, this is a much different team than it was just a year ago, where the defense carried it and the offense did just enough. This looks like a real high-powered contender heavyweight team.
Yeah, I agree to a certain point. I think that one of the things, as you well know, Steve, that the further you get deeper in the playoffs, you got to have that running game going. And I just hope that they will do that. Their first half almost fell asleep, I think, like most people. But you know what? exactly, we talked about room for improvement on all phases, but yeah, definitely is a lot similar to what we went through in third season as I was there. Then we all of a sudden, with Thurman Thomas and a couple, Andre Reed coming into his own. And I think that we're on the verge of seeing something special. I just hope they continue to work and get better, get that running game going, take some of the pressure off of Josh. And what a pickup Diggs was, and that probably exactly. You talk about all those things, then you look at James Lofton, how important he was when he came into our system. We already had BB, already had Andre, and now you had James Lofton to the mix. So, and special teams, Steve. I mean that in itself, even though we missed an extra point, but special teams, I think that's a big part of when Coach Levy always used to talk about. There's three parts of this team: offense, defense, and special teams. I know that's an old cliche, but when you have a good special teams, that helps so much, not only with field position, but maybe getting turnover or pinning the offense, the opposing team's offense deep back in their own territory. So I like what we see. I just hope we continue to get better, and hopefully we'll peak at the right time.
Jim, I was asked this by a fan on social media. They were intrigued by what this receiving core has done for this offense this year collectively. And they're like, well, how does it compare to, the 1990s receiving core? And I'm like, well, hold on a second. We're talking about a couple of Hall of Famers there in Lofton and Reed, and then Beebe was no slouch either. So how do you look at this year's group, and do you think in terms of how they helped Josh, it's comparable to the way your guys helped you?
Oh, there's no doubt. I think there's not enough said about Ken Dorsey, the quarterback coach. I think he's doing a heck of a job with Josh. I think the receivers, there's no doubt, they help. When you can run good routes, as Steve always knew that I was adamant about running good routes, keeping it flat, breaking out, coming back to the football, all those things that I emphasized when we were at practice. These guys are doing that. They have a good feel. I wish John Brown was still there, that he'd be able to help out also. But the guys that need to step up, the backups, are doing their job. And I think that, they continue to work on different things. And I think Dable is doing an unbelievable job calling plays. You never know what they're going to do. Josh, with his cadence, as we all well know, is very important that defensive end doesn't get that quick jump on us. So all around, they're doing a lot better. Yes, continue to improve, but I like what I see.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is one of the things that helped the Bills this year was the fact that they were going 4 wide early in the season. They went 10 personnel more than any team in the league, and the reason they could do that was because of their shock and surprise, and pleasant shock and pleasant surprise, Gabriel Davis came in as a rookie and learned all 4 spots on the wide receiver chart and played so well at all of them that they decided they wanted to put him on the field. I don't know that we ever had a rookie during your time come in as a wide receiver and just bully his way onto the field because of his good play and his great practice habits and the trust that he earned not only from a quarterback but also from the coaching staff. What about Gabe Davis?
I think he's great. I mean, when I saw him in his first couple of games, I'm like, wow, he's special. This kid can play. So, yeah, that definitely, and as being a quarterback, when you see that, you know that if anybody needs a rest, and you know how that went, Steve, when, we ran a couple routes, Andre would put his hand out like Thurman used to do, and I need a little break. You didn't break it was like you're going the same pace as you were before, when Kenny Davis came in at running back. I think that, you look at Davis and what he's done in our kick return and punt return. What's his name again?
Andre Roberts.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love watching him because every time he touches the football, I think he might be scoring. So that is huge, especially as a quarterback. You want that good field position. But overall, I like the receiving core that we have, and who knows who's going to step up, but Diggs is definitely the shining point.
Jim, you mentioned Ken Dorsey here, and I know you and him obviously are fellow Miami alums, so you're probably a little bit biased. And, you've sat down, you've talked with him before. People are already worried that with the success of this offense that Brian Dable may get a head coaching job somewhere else. What do you think of the validity of the candidacy for Ken Dorsey to possibly succeed Brian Dable in the coordinator's post, should Brian leave for a head coaching job somewhere else?
Quit talking about that. We want to keep these guys here for a couple more years. I texted him a while ago, a couple weeks ago, and I said, don't even think about that coaching job. We still have a couple more years to utilize your talent as well as Josh's. So don't even think about that. So, Ken is very, very intelligent. He knows the offense inside out. I've sat in meetings with him, this past year, last year, but, I guess I should say before the season. And just things he says when we talk about it, I mean, it wasn't a lot of meetings, but when I did, I just know the guy. I didn't know him real well until this past last couple of years, but he's a guy. There's no doubt I have all the confidence in the world, but I hope Brian doesn't leave for a couple more years.
I know you saw the Bills game against the Steelers this last Sunday night, and I know you are well acquainted with Ben Roethlisberger. What do you think about his career and how close to the end of it he might be?
I think it's coming there, whether it's this year or next year. I mean, he still can play, but he's not the Ben Roethlisberger that, can get outside and, run 15, 20 yards like Josh. It's almost like Josh is the young Ben Roethlisberger, that he can do the running part. He can, be able to, if he needs to, run somebody over or play smart and do the sliding. That was Ben Roethlisberger yesterday is Josh Allen today. I hope he's able to do what Ben did, take us to a Super Bowl and win. But Ben, I think he's definitely within the next year or two, he's probably going to start winding it down because you don't want to get hurt to a point where, you're not going to be able to enjoy your kids. And I know Ben has a few kids, and I've spent time with him. He's come to my lodge many times, and we snowmobiled together. Just a good kid, great guy. And who knows? That's why I did my little post. Love you to death, Ben, but you know what? Let's go Buffalo.
Last one I got for you, Jim, is the AFC landscape. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. We know that. We saw what the Bills did with the Steelers this past week. Is there a team in the AFC that you're looking at saying, man, those guys would be a bear to play against in the playoffs? I don't know if I want to draw that team in round one of the postseason. Anybody kind of catch your eye and give you a little cause for concern?
Well, Kansas City, as you just said, Tennessee's good. You know what? Miami's coming on. I know we played them the last game. I think it's the last game of the season. The thing is, I don't want to have it come down to the last game. I'd like to clinch the AFC sooner than later and not have to worry about that. But there's, everybody knows, Kansas City, everybody looks at, if they stay healthy with that receiving core and that defense they have. Defense is not great, but that offense is just unbelievable. They're going to be tough to beat, but I would like to be able to get in a situation where we get down to the end, maybe Kansas City gets upset, and we'd be able to, have a game or the rest of the games in Buffalo. And the last thing I do is say, come on, Cuomo, man, give us a game where we can put some people in the stadium. That's bull. I mean, you see other teams getting, 10,000 like that. I know that is old cliche. We're protecting everybody. I get that. But the thing is, everybody would go to the game. They'd sit together. That's what, 6-8 people. That's always anyways. Give us some fans. Come on, man.
Last one from me, Jim. You heard, obviously, this last week that Kim and Terry extended the contract of Brandon Beane. That puts the head coach and the general manager under contract till 2025. I know back in the day, Bill Polian left the team after the second Super Bowl with 2 more Super Bowls to go. How important do you think it is, and what are your thoughts on the Brandon Beane extension going along with Sean McDermott?
I love it. I was waiting for that. I think a lot of people were. Brandon not only is a class act and a great guy, he's smart. He knows what he's doing. He talks to the right people, gets the right information. And when you team that up with Coach McDermott, you get a winning situation right there. As long as we stay healthy and he continues to do what he does, bringing in guys that do make a difference, I think we might hopefully be seeing what we saw, back in the 90s. And I hate to keep on bringing that up because I know some probably players say, okay, enough about that. I'm sure the Pagulos are saying that too. Okay, guys, we're talking about this year, this franchise, not the one back in the 90s, But the thing is, I love what I see now. I love what Brandon Beane has done. I know that they respect Sean very much, and that's a good starting point. And I'm glad to see that Brandon's earned, he definitely has earned that position of making sure that he continue to make a difference, and he definitely has.
Perfect, Jim. Thanks very much for the time, lending some insight on Josh's game this season. Good luck out there on the hunting grounds, man, and have a great holiday with your family, all right?
Thanks, Jim.
I
See you.
appreciate. Yep, you got it. Merry Christmas to everybody. It's your Bills Mafia. Keep cheering on loud. We can hear you from those TV sets and those recliners, but I want to get a playoff game where we can have some fans in that stands.
All right, take care, Jim. Thanks much for the
Have
time.
a good one, guys.
All right, that's Jim Kelly, Bills Hall of Famer.